Am I the asshole for putting my daughter first? One of my closest, oldest friends lost her son last year. His passing was traumatic for multiple reasons not coarse, so I instantly went to be with her. My daughter and he were born 3 months apart, so they were very close and she was devastated. Since then I have tried to be sensitive to my friend's needs, but she has not shown my daughter that same sensitivity. I gave her a year before I started trying to gently nudge her. I accepted her missing my daughter's birthday party because she said knowing her son will never turn that age, he died just before his birthday, was too hard. She's confided in me that she's struggling because she gets no real time to grieve. She's been focused on getting her younger children through this, and I do feel bad that she is having a hard time. Now onto the problem. I let my daughter text her when she misses her friend because it comforts my daughter. Sometimes she doesn't respond until the next day, which to be honest upsets me, but I hold my tongue. Recently my daughter wanted to go to the cemetery and see him, so I asked my friend to meet us there as I'm not sure where he is buried. She said she couldn't because her sons weren't wanting to see him that day and she can't leave them home alone. I snapped. I told her my daughter is struggling and she could stand to think of her sometimes too. She got quiet and told me her days consist of working and handling her children's grief and trauma, and by the end of the day, she has nothing left to give to anyone else. Then she hung up and I haven't heard from her sensei. I sent her a text that I loved her, but I was done communicating until she prioritized my daughter a little too. Was that really too much to ask? To add a reason for my thought process, I guess I didn't think it was a huge ask. My daughter blamed herself in the aftermath because they fought about something petty. Then he died, and at his funeral she took the time on her own to reassure her he knew she loved him and wasn't to blame, so I thought she would be okay with helping me with her. I don't know if this helps, but she let my daughter have one of his prized possessions to remember him by, which is another reason I thought she'd understand how hard my daughter is handling it. Edit 2. I am taking your comments to heart. When I see her, she never behaves like she's drowning, she laughs, cracks jokes, goes about her daily life. I never thought to scratch the surface, I just thought she was coping really well and being strong. I will apologize. I don't think she'll want me to take the kids, she's very protective of them, and I imagine I have some work to do to get back that level of trust. I do have my daughter in therapy. Slight update. I told her I was sorry for being so harsh and insensitive and that I loved her. She said she forgives me but needs space right now. I told her if she ever needs it I'll take the kids. But she said since her youngest and my daughter don't get along very well, she appreciates the offer, but she thinks it's best if he's not pushed to get along with her right now. I openly admit she's high-strung and bickers with him in a sibling-type way. She loves him, she just views him like an annoying little brother, and my friend's son who died would sometimes have to remind her he's a lot younger than her. My friend would also have to remind her sometimes, and they'd usually leave shortly after. They did get along really well at the funeral though, and I would make sure she'd have patience, but I know my friend is protective right now. You are the asshole. I guarantee that every time your daughter texts her about her dead son she feels an intense wave of fresh grief. You're not just putting your daughter first, you're being actively cruel. You are the asshole. I appreciate that your daughter is struggling with her own grief, but that is your responsibility to manage, not your friend's. She had gone through one of the most devastating things that can happen to a person, and probably will never fully recover from it. And she is also having to care for her other children's grief. You are going through a lot, but she is going through so much more. Expecting her to take care of your child on top of it was very selfish and self-absorbed. Wow. You are the asshole. You are most definitely You are the asshole. You're allowed to put your daughter first, but you have no right to ask another parent to do so. Especially because she just lost a child and has young children who are grieving also. You should be asking how you can help her and lighten her load, not adding to it. She has been a saint to be so patient and to respond to your daughter's texts, and to answer you honestly about her feelings rather than going off on you. That poor woman. Am I the asshole for not allowing my aunts direct access to my mother's medical information? My 29F mother, 66F, hasn't taken care of her health for years. She lives with my husband and I and our 2 children. Monday evening, she became lethargic and confused. She didn't know where she was or what was happening. We called 911 and she was taken to the hospital, where she was admitted into the ICU with acute respiratory failure with hypoxia and hypercapnia. Her thyroid levels were 10 times what the normal level is. She was awake and responsive when she was admitted, but overnight, she stopped breathing and they had to intubate her. She has been in a medically induced coma ever since. My sister, 45F, is 2 hours away and I have been the point of contact for everything. My sister let my mom's 4 sisters know what was going on and they came to see her because we weren't sure if she was going to make it. One of them gave her number to the staff and I approved it for them to give her updates if she called. However, I woke up Wednesday morning to my mother's private medical information posted to Facebook. There was information that I didn't even know yet because I hadn't spoken to her doctor yet that day. I was very upset. Then, yesterday morning, my aunt posted that my mother was doing so great and everything was good. That wasn't true. So, my sister and I decided to ask the hospital not to update anybody but the 2 of us. My aunt called this morning and was told she was stable but they couldn't share any other information and she would have to talk to me if she wanted to know more. Now, my aunts have decided that I am the villain here and they are after my head. My sister has been running interference for me so I don't have to directly deal with them but my aunt called me anyway. She demanded to know why she wasn't allowed to have information and accused me of ruining my other aunt's vacation. She also told me not to bother updating them. Then she called the hospital and tried to manipulate the nurse into giving her information. We had to put a password on my mom's chart. My mom isn't close with her sisters. She always complained that they never told her anything and always left her out of everything. She hasn't seen or spoken to them in years. I feel comfortable saying that she would understand my sister and I's stance right now. Her sisters are all in their mid to late 60s and they want to be in control but they aren't her next of kin. I don't want to step on their toes but I also don't want my mom's medical information spread all over social media. They accused me of icing them out, which I tried to explain that I am not doing. I will still let them know what is happening with their sister. So am I the asshole? Update. Well, today, one of her sisters threatened to take me to court to become my mother's power of attorney. She also threatened to drive the hour to the hospital and demand information. My sister dealt with her and told her security would be there if she tried that. My mother came out of her coma today. She is still intubated so she can't talk but she is awake and alert. We haven't told her about what her sisters are pulling right now. We didn't want to stress her out. She just needs to get better and not worry about it. Not the asshole. Who does that? Not the asshole. It would have been okay if they treated the info reasonably, but they went and put it all on social media, which is a whole other level. Not the asshole and honey ice them out. They are her sisters but they are not entitled to her information nor are they allowed to post her medical status for the world to see without hers, yours or your sister's permission. If they have their ass on their shoulders about it, oh freaking well. I hope your mom makes a full recovery and that you and your sister are taking care of yourselves. Not the asshole. Your mom's health story is not for your aunts to broadcast for the views. Well, the only reply to why she wasn't allowed to have information is obvious. Because you blathered it to the world and wasn't even truthful about it. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to swap Mother's Day weekend with my ex? Ex and I have a 7-year-old daughter together, Indy. Our divorce was pretty friendly considering we mad such a bad couple, and when he met his wife Gwen I really liked her and the 2 of us got along so well. She said Indy was such a sweet kid and how excited she was to be part of her life. I loved it for Indy and Indy really liked Gwen. But right around the time Gwen and my ex bought a house together things went downhill. Gwen has 3 children ages 12, 10 and 8 and they dislike Indy. There seems to be some jealousy there because Gwen was nice to Indy. Indy has talked about the kids saying mean stuff, like she doesn't belong, that she's dumb, that nobody likes her or wants her around. Indy told her dad and Gwen and they assured her it would get better and they would handle it. But nothing has changed and whenever Indy is with the whole family she ends up being told by the kids that they don't want her there. They have fits over having to include her in activities and Gwen and my ex have started telling her that she just needs to wait a bit, and she can have a turn with one of them after. But they always forget about it by the time Gwen's kids are finished. She said when it's just her and Gwen it's even worse because Gwen's kids hate when she speaks to her and that just makes them more angry with her. She told me she doesn't like spending time with the family anymore. And to make things even worse, Gwen has complained to me about Indy pulling away, and seeming less interested. And I brought up what Indy was saying and she said if she seemed more interested she would include her but she just doesn't seem to want to be around anymore. My ex was like what do you want me to do, Gwen's kids don't like me either. So when my ex asked if we could swap Mother's Day weekend this year, so Indy could be with them, because they are doing a Mother's Day weekend trip and Indy should be there, I said no. He was like, come on, you can even get extra time, and I said no. He asked why and I said I wanted my daughter for Mother's Day and it was final. He told me Indy shouldn't miss out on the trip. I told him she's missing out on nothing other than a weekend of being excluded and treated like an outcast and feeling like she has to be careful of having Gwen's attention because her stepsiblings will hate her for it. He told me it doesn't mean she wouldn't enjoy it. X said I was being unfair and unreasonable. Am I the asshole? Adding before I post. I did not ask Indy if she wants to go because she has expressed repeatedly how she hates doing trips with them and how she wishes she could stay with me when they go places. So that is enough for me to say she would not want to be there. She also doesn't like Gwen as much since she feels like she gets forgotten. She also feels that way about her dad too. ETA. Taking full custody is not an option. I have spoken to my own lawyer and I got a second opinion on it. Currently Indy is on 3 wait lists for therapy. Only 3 are open to new patients right now, but all have waiting lists. Not the asshole. You are her mother, not Gwen, and it seems like making her go would be punishing you and her unnecessarily when it's your day. Your ex needs to do something about this situation. He is alienating your daughter from his family by not stepping up, yet seems to be laying the responsibility on a 7-year-old to fix the situation. The 12-year-old and 10-year-old and definitely old enough to both know and be told what they are doing is not on and to have some form of punishment as a result of their actions. Your job is to make sure Indy is happy, and it certainly sounds like she isn't enjoying her time there. He's an asshole for insisting she goes on a trip that will just make her feel miserable. Not the asshole. You are her mom, not Gwen. And your ex and Gwen need to get into family therapy with her kids ASAP. The kids need to be told when they are treating Indy wrong, and there must be requirements for basic decency and kindness which I'm not seeing here. This is such a bad situation. I can't believe they aren't in counseling yet. INTA. If you have a custody agreement in place, it needs to be re-evaluated. Not the asshole. You. She doesn't want to go as she is excluded. The kids are mean to her, she is on eggshells and she gets stressed. X. She likes it. What is wrong with him? Not the asshole. But you should still ask Indy. It would make things so much easier for you to tell your ex she's not going. It would also just be a confirmation you're doing what she wants. Am I the asshole for opposing my friend's dinner order? Bit of context. My wife and I, both 45, went out to dinner with another married couple and their 16-year-old son. I have been friends with this person for 30 years as we grew up together and have known his partner for 10 years, the son as his partners. I was in the middle of a conversation when he just got up and said he was going to order something. Feeling perplexed that he just walked off with no real explanation of what he was ordering. 15 minutes later a heap of food arrives. Now we had no idea about what kind of food, nor did he ask, but he has done this before, and last time it happened he just kind of took control of the food without asking. I wasn't really into the food and am the kind of diner who likes to look at the menu and discuss with my wife and dinner partners what our choices are. These decisions are often taste-based and sometimes financial. Anyway, back to dinner. Besides feeling brushed off with him walking off midway through a story I was telling, and I feeling quite annoyed as I feel like he had taken liberties and didn't take into consideration what others wanted. Not even a question of whether we ready. Now I'm happy to be treated out as someone's guests, but it just feels odd to not be asked and have someone control a table like that. I did say to him that I felt put out because ordering is a collective effort, but he hasn't contacted me since. Am I the asshole here? Keen to hear your input. Edit. The 16-year-old boy didn't order, that's my shit grammar. My male friend ordered. Thanks for the feedback. I felt like I may be overacting but now feel a bit better hearing what you guys think. Edit 2. Okay, more context. Menus were out but people weren't even looking at them. We were sitting on 2 couches. We weren't discussing food, we were having pre-dinner drinks and myself and male friend were talking. I was telling a story but we were there in discussion for about 10 minutes, drink in hand. No mention of food. He literally stood up before the punchline and said, "I'm getting some food." Meanwhile I'm left sitting. The others are drinking. I even asked my wife what she wanted to eat and she said I'm not ready to order. A while later my friend comes back and he said I bought some tacos. So I think fuck and said you could have waited. He just shrugs it off, so I go speak to my wife and we organize some choices for us too. I go to the counter and come back, there's tacos on the table and people are sharing and my maid is giving out the food. At that point I realized there was a bit of unintentional fuckery which pissed me off. Why? I like to discuss our choices, tastes etc. etc. At no point did he say he was going to host us or pay for the lot. This brings a few things up. Primarily, I don't like to treat it unless I understand I am. I come from a poor-ass background and worked fucking hard to get where we are. I also felt power play on his behalf as I study human behavior and wasn't born in the last shower. I'm all about consent and open discussion. Hope this helped fill in the gaps. Info. How long after sitting down at the restaurant did he get up to order? His behavior was definitely rude. But I'm wondering if you were so into your conversation you might have also been making the table wait longer to order food, which is also quite rude. Info. Why were you telling a long story, joke instead of looking at the menu at the beginning like most people? Why feel the need to mention that the 16-year-old son is his wife's child? Why were you telling a story and not ordering your food? Maybe you're long-winded and he's tired of waiting for you to stop telling stories before you start thinking about ordering your meal. Not enough information who the AH is. Info. What was the kind of food? Was it family style, sharing focused? Does he belong to the same culture as the restaurant?